Hi everyone, we have the most beautiful day here. It's hot, it's sunny, it's like midsummer, it's so perfect. And we went to the bog last night with my brother to help bring the turf out, but there were too many midges and we had to give up because we were being eaten alive. So we're going now at the height of the sun when it's the hottest and driest, so the midges should stay hidden away and let us just get on with the work. So come on, I'll bring you to the bog, to an Irish bog, and you can see what it's like bringing home the turf. So this is the bog. This is where the turf is cut and saved and dried, and then we bring it home. In the old days, we brought it home on donkey panniers, 2 baskets strapped over the donkey, and nowadays it's brought on a tractor and trailer. So things have advanced a little bit, but it is a beautiful, mysterious place to be. I used to love coming here, working with my dad, saving the turf, footing the turf. That means kind of stacking it up into little haystacks, and then you build it up into bigger piles and bigger piles, and all the time the wind is going through it, drying it. So when you're out here working, there's so much peace and solitude. You just maybe hear a lonesome cry of a water bird at some time, but generally it's just yourself. Although in my dad's day, all the families would come at the same time, so you'd have a bit of crack, a bit of fun on the bog, you'd be working hard, but you'd light a little fire and make your lunch. And it was a kind of community activity in a way. So if somebody needed a little bit of extra help, somebody would have a child who could run over and do a little bit extra to help. So usually the turf is cut around March time, and then it has the whole year until August to be drying, and it's the wind really that people rely on rather than the sun. Obviously the sun does a little bit, but it's an amazing place. But I'll bring you a bit further down now and you'll see how the turf is laid out on the surface of the bog. So in the old days, the men would cut the turf around March time, and then from then until August, the women and children would come over to the bog and they would turn the turf to dry it, and then they would begin to foot it. And this is what we mean by footings. They'd normally be a bit smaller than that. So you'd put your pieces of turf together and you'd make a kind of a pyramid shape. This turf's very, very dry. It might be last year's, it's so dry. And that's a little footing. And then when the footings are dry, you put them together in smaller lumps and bigger lumps and bigger lumps. And then in August, you bring it out and you leave it on the side of the bog, on the road. And we always used to come to Ireland as children during the August month, because then we could help with the hay and we could help with the turf. And if anybody has ever visited Ireland, you will know how the turf smells when it's burning. It's absolutely divine. It's a beautiful perfume and it's really distinctive, and it just gives you that wonderful sense of safety and security when you smell it. But the other thing I like about the bog, apart from the physical workout that you get when you come here, is the silence. As I said, it's so lonely and a little bit eerie. And when you think of, in past times when there were families all over the place working. It's very lonesome now, but I do like it nevertheless. And it's precious to me as well because it's a big part of our heritage. So if you remember, a few weeks ago I was talking about one of our local heroines, Gráinne Whale. She lived here during Elizabethan times, and so back then there were people living here who were burning turf, and it was well established by that time that turf was the local fuel. So people in this area and all over Ireland have been burning their turf for fuel for absolute centuries, maybe thousands of years, but certainly many, many, many centuries. And now we're told that we shouldn't be doing it because it's damaging to the environment and to the climate, which is crazy, because I can come here and get this turf. It's only 2 miles from home, and yet our government wants me to switch to electricity or to oil that could be imported from thousands and thousands of miles away. So all that transportation is going to be far more damaging to the environment than me burning a tractor load of turf. It doesn't make any sense. To me, it's all about control, because we see now as more and more people build passive houses that are fueled by electricity, we now see these ridiculously high price increases, and they're just not warranted. There's no reason for them. Someone I know who has a windmill was trying to sell it back to the national grid in Scotland, and were told that they couldn't do that because the national grid had too much electricity. In fact, they were turning off windmills that fueled the national grid. So make of that what you will. But anyway, enough about politics. Let's just enjoy this beautiful scenery and the peace, and you know, the beautiful colours of the firs and the heather and the bog cotton. It's a very dry summer this year, so the bog is actually quite dry. It's quite a bouncy place, but there isn't any bog cotton that I can see so far today. You know, when we were children and we used to come here, we would be bitten by clowers, which were some kind of big insect that bit you. It's like a horsefly. And there's lots of other things here as well, which would be particular to the bog. You know, there's certain little birds, there's dragonflies, there's particular plants that only grow here in this bog, such as the sundew, which is a carnivorous plant. So the bog is just a fascinating place. And the history as well is fascinating, because during the bad times when there was the Great Hunger, if people were evicted, they would often come and build themselves a little hut out of the turf. It would be like a little igloo made from turf, and that would give them a little bit of protection from the elements, because their houses would have been knocked down. I used to come to the bog and help my dad as well to foot the turf, and my brother cuts his turf. And I don't believe there's many women come to the bog these days. Apart from myself and my sister-in-law, I haven't seen women on the bog. But the one thing that makes me feel lonesome on the bog is the thought, as my dad used to tell me, such and such a family would be here, there and everywhere, and now they're scattered to the four corners of the earth. You know, people have gone to America and Australia, they've gone to England, they've gone elsewhere, and that's kind of sad, because to me, I just feel sad that those people won't be back here on their home turf, so to speak. So another reason I like to come to the bog is because it gives you a chance to think, and you look out at this vastness, and it's completely unchanging for many, many hundreds and hundreds of years, and you realise that we're just here for the blink of an eye, really. And so we shouldn't get too attached to what's going on, because the world is just going to keep turning and things are just going to keep carrying on as always. I do have to laugh when they're talking about how damaging it is to burn turf to the environment and the air quality, because our air here is the freshest, bestest air you can get anywhere. We have types of usnea and other lichens growing on trees. They're dripping all over the place because the air quality is so good. And if our Green Minister, who knows so much about the environment, was aware of these lichens, he wouldn't be making silly statements about the air quality. Oh look, here's some bog cotton. Look at that. Little bits of cotton wool on a stick. And you could actually weave this into fabric if you had the time and the patience. So there's your piece of finished turf. This was probably twice the size when it was cut, probably weighed a lot more, and now it's light, it's thin, it's brittle, and it's going to burn like magic. So looking forward to autumn and winter with a good stack of turf outside the door. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing about the bog. I mean, there's another thing I forgot to mention. If you go to the National Museum in Ireland, there are several bog bodies, because the bog is a mysterious place as well. Some people were just lost in the bog and never found. Other people were deliberately put in the bog, and the bog bodies reveal what had happened to them beforehand. And apart from that, other artifacts have often been found in the bog: hoards of gold, votive offerings, and also kegs full of butter, because the bog would have preserved the butter because it's so cool and because it's so acidic that you cannot have bacteria living in it when the kegs are of butter and are under the water. So you never know what you might turn up, apart from the lovely turf for the fire. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the weed handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.